Do you remember last week whenever I told you I was ending the vlog? Man, oh man, do I have so much to tell you. What is up, all my swell friends? And that was my new intro to the new weekly segment thingamajigger that I'm going to start doing. It was one of the things that I've been thinking about doing and been planning on doing for 2018. It's 5 Minute Friday. The concept and idea behind 5 Minute Friday was I get tons of questions. I get tons of people that are like, hey, how do you do this? And what did you do about that? And why did you do it this way? The purpose and objective of 5 Minute Friday is to give myself a medium to be able to share some of this information with you. I've been writing like blog posts on the website, and like I personally feel like it's good for me to write, to spend some time and like compose what I'm trying to say into like a sentence and then a paragraph and then like a document or a blog post. But it's so freaking time consuming, you know what I mean? And I was thinking, wouldn't it just be easier to make quick videos about whatever I'm trying to like think about and convey? It would be easier for me anyway. Probably be easier for you too, that way you don't have to read some boring content. This can be a little bit more exciting. See this right here? That, my friends, is an enormous stack of resumes. You know how I was moving to Utah? Well, I'm still planning on moving to Utah. But if you follow me on Twitter, you will have seen the tweet I put up the other day. And that is, man, it's absolutely amazing how much things can change in a moment. I don't mean to be cryptic. I don't mean to be secretive, or I just can't share the details of kind of what's going on yet. It's not the end of the world, but some big changes have happened, like literally in the last few days, that have, I got to put the move off at least 60 days, maybe more. There's nothing I can do about it. I can share more soon, but today I just have to leave it at that. But since I get to pause the packing and moving process for just a little bit, I figured now'd be as good a time as ever to start something new. So 5 Minute Friday is going to be 5 minutes on Fridays, and it's going to be a little bit about something that you want to know about. So if there's something that you want to know about that we're doing that we're not haven't shared or whatever, ask, but don't ask in YouTube. I mean, you can ask there, but it's better if you just like ask me on Twitter, because it's easier to like manage the volume if there happens to be any volume. So for this first 5 Minute Friday segment, I wanted to talk about something that sort of touches on something or a topic that I get asked a lot. One of the things that I get asked a lot is, hey, do you have like a rig walk around video? Something that delves deep into what I have, why I have it, why I did that particular brand, or what modification it is, or what, and which order did you do, and sort of the topic here is actually centered around, I don't know if you follow this person on Instagram. I think her name is Jillian Rebecca, but she asked the question a couple of months ago, what were your first 3 mods and why? And today we're going to discuss what the first 3 mods were that I did and why I did it. Oh, and welcome to 2018. Enough talk, let's go outside so I can show you some of this stuff. And right now in Florida, it's really freezing outside. That's not enough. One more layer. All right. Told you it was cold. I mean, it's not like freezing right now, but it's pretty chilly out. It says it's 36, which is super, super cold for Florida. I turned a little sprinkler thingamajigger on, like a little whirly-woo. Let it run last night, and we got a winter wonderland. The kids love it.
He's ready?
Okay. Nice. What do you think about all this ice?
I think it's amazing! We may not have snow days, but we have ice days. Dad, look at this, ready? Got 2 hats on.
Nice. Okay, so tires are pretty much the first thing that I did. Not really, but I'll get into that in a second. When you first get your vehicle, the street tires it'll come with, it'll work okay for light off-pavement use, but when the environments start getting more intense, the street tires, they'll become less and less capable. In addition, traction is a major issue. Whether you're in sand, loose dirt, or mud, you're gonna wanna have something that's gonna help, not hinder. Most of the good off-road tires that you're gonna be able to, have to pick from, they're gonna be fine in terms of, being able to put up with the abuse that you're gonna put them in. But you want to do your research to see like what's gonna be a good fit for you. The tires I went with were BF Goodrich KO2s. You'll have to do your own research and figure out like what works best, but I went with an all-terrain tire. I didn't want a mud tire because I was afraid of the noise. You have to understand this is a daily driver for me. I put tons of highway miles in this truck. I drive it everywhere. It's one of the reasons why I bought a Toyota is I wanted to make sure I had something that was gonna be reliable for using it a lot. I don't have to worry about like, am I putting too many miles on this? When I was doing my research, I was coming into this with absolutely no experience. This is my first truck, certainly my first off-road vehicle. I've never bought any off-road capable tires. I had no idea what I was looking for. And so I did my research. I spent a lot of time in the forums trying to figure out like what tires other experienced people were using and why they were using them. And the BF Goodrich KO2s seemed to be a fairly common tire. It seemed to me like that was the majority of the people that were experienced, that was the tire that they were using. There's a lot of other good tires out there, and I'm not saying that there's other tires that aren't as good or whatever. I don't know about those, but the research I did basically was telling me that these were a good, safe bet for somebody that wasn't experienced like me for a first off-road kind of tire. I have now bought 3 sets. I've got the set that's on here. I bought a set for the trailer where actually I put them on here and put these on the trailer, which that's another vlog a long time ago. And then I bought a set for my wife's van too. I think on the first set, I think I had 35,000 miles on them or so whenever I moved them over to the trailer, and they're still in great shape, plenty of tread left. If I can get 50,000 miles out of a tire, I think that's phenomenal. I have 50,000 miles on this truck now, so they probably have 15,000 miles on these tires. I've been really happy with them so far. I ended up going with 285 70 17s, specifically because in the research that I was doing, that seemed to be a really sort of a well-rounded tire size in terms of capability, what I was going to be using it for, and what other people were running. There's a forum post on t4r.org, I believe is what the URL is, and it basically is like a complete guide to tire sizing and all this stuff, and it was basically saying this particular size running a 3-inch lift would be fine without any major modification and stuff like that. I will say the tires weren't exactly the first mod that I did. I did lift, and I'll get into that in a second, then I did tires, and it was specifically because I wanted to make sure I could accommodate a larger tire size. As a side note, these tires, even after the lift, they did rub, but it was a very light rub, and it was very easy to fix with the fender liner mod. Which, by the way, the fender liner mod is basically where you take the fender and bumper stuff and you make some adjustments so that when you do turn the tire, and especially when it's flexed, because that's when it's worse, you're not rubbing anything anymore. It basically consists of trimming the bumper cover right here at the corner, and then basically drilling a couple of new holes in the plastic, unscrewing the screws, and then moving the inside of the fender on the front, pushing it forward as far as you can. You can get about 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches out of that, and then you don't redo the screw holes before you do that. You push it forward, then you redo the screw holes, and you put the new screws in, or put the screws into the new holes. And basically what that does is that gives you another 2 inches of space up in the front. Then once you do that, then you want to actually cut the bottom bumper cover thingamajigger, and you can just use that with a Dremel. I actually just used a really sharp utility knife. And the rear, actually the best solution is to remove the rear, the front mud flaps. Originally I used a heat gun and kind of pushed some of the plastic out of the way, but I just ended up having to remove them anyway when I put the sliders on, so it was a non-issue anymore. tires are actually a really important first mod because they're essentially responsible for taking you where you want to go. And if they aren't capable, like if you're on a rocky trail and they get punctured by a rock or something, I mean, if they fail, you're done. So you need to have tires that are capable of doing that. I knew that I wanted to increase the size of my tires, and I knew that in order to increase the size of my tires, I needed to have a little bit more clearance. And I know people that are running this tire size with stock ride height, stock suspension, and it's possible. And the majority of the rubbing problems that you have are going to be in the front and the back, and that's or in the front and in front of the tires. And so that's obviously, like I said a second ago, you easily solved with the fender liner mod. The other problem I knew I was going to have to deal with was articulation. And so I wanted to make sure that I could accommodate that and articulate the larger tires whenever I was fully flexed. So I actually did my lift first, and then I did the tires like a couple weeks later. So like I said, since this was my first truck and certainly the first off-road vehicle, I had no idea what I was looking for in terms of suspension. I had no idea what was going to be, what was going to work, what was going to not work. I had no idea what I was looking for. So I, again, took to the forums trying to figure out what the options were out there. I knew I wanted increased clearance, flexibility. I knew I didn't want an uncomfortable ride, but also at the same time, this suspension setup, how it is a stiffer ride than it was from the factory, but from the factory it was really soft, in my opinion. I have a really big problem. It's something that's wrong with me. I'm actually really terrible with lots of options. Give me 3 options, I'm good. Give me 100 options, I like fall apart. So I decided to pick a brand first. I went with OME, Old Man Emu. It's a brand that the ARB, it's their suspension brand or whatever. And the reason why I picked OME is because, again, took to the forums and was just trying to do a little bit of research, trying to figure out like what the experienced guys were using. And OME seemed to be a very reputable brand, something that people were running for long periods of time, that were running them, that brand reliably, that brand's products reliably. They had good product offering, they had good reputation, just all of the things lined up. There's other brands out there that are good. I know lots of people that are running, things from different types of, King and Icon and all these other people, and they're running just fine, and it's working just fine. But I picked OME because in my research I felt like that was a pretty good brand to get started with. I may try something different in the future, but so once I picked the brand, it was easy for me. I just had to pick the cheapest thing that they had because they've got products out there that are like $3,000 that are adjustable and all this other stuff. And I mean, maybe I'll do that kind of stuff someday, but this is my first. I wasn't gonna do that right off the bat. The setup that I have is their basic 3-inch OME setup. I think it's like $900 on Toy Tech. It comes with springs and shocks. I don't know if there's anything special with them. You can get different springs or different coils that are, varying levels of stiffness. I actually ended up getting mine used. Typically, we'll browse the classified section of the forums looking for used stuff, and I had kind of loosely decided that this is what I wanted, and then a used setup just like this, it came online for about $400, $400, $500, somewhere on there, and he had had it on his vehicle for a few months and was parting it out, was building something else, whatever, he's moving on. So I picked that setup up, everything looked fine, and had it installed, and I've been running that setup for 18 months now. It's been good. When I bought the setup, I had medium rear coils and light duty front coils, and after I added the drawers and the fridge and all the crap that I have in the drawers and the trailer, the back was sagging quite a bit, so I changed those out for heavy duty coils. The front with the bumper and the winch, it's definitely sagging quite a bit as well, and I'm going to be changing the front coils out to medium duty coils soon, but for now it's light duty coils, and it's working, but it needs to be changed. I think I'll get another inch. I think I'll get an inch back of lift, maybe 3/4 of an inch of lift back if I change that out. As a quick side note, they did have some issues getting it aligned whenever I was at the shop, and they were working on the alignment. It wasn't 100% perfect. I don't really understand the science behind alignment, but I know that there's some like numbers and some variables and ranges, and they couldn't quite get it, but they said it was really, really close. Drives fine, handles fine, but I have talked to people who have taken it and gotten it done or whatever, and the alignment shop was like, I can't get it aligned, it's not gonna work. That's not necessarily true. You need to have a shop that's good at aligning, that understands, because it's you can get it pretty close and it's just fine. I think that if you upgrade the upper control arms, which I have not done, then making the alignment work, I think maybe it'll help that work a little bit better. I'm not really sure. I don't understand all of it. I'm running stock upper control arms. I don't really know what else aftermarket upper control arms do. Oh, and this isn't really suspension related, but I am running 1.25-inch Spider Track spacers all the way around, and have been since I installed the lift, interestingly enough. And the look is great. I like having the tires out a little bit further. It's protected the side work, body work stuff a little bit because it gives you that wider stance. And I have had no issues whatsoever, except I've had 2 studs that have broken, and it's been specifically because the 2 shops that I brought the vehicle to that took the tires off for one reason or another, over torque the lugs when they put it down. The factory required spec or whatever is 85 foot-pounds torque. If you go over that with these studs, there's a good chance that you could actually break the stud. So if you do the spacers and you get the shop, get the vehicle services shop, make sure they know, do not over torque it. You must use a torque wrench to put the lugs back on. Ever since I've been very specific with whatever shop I've taken it to, they've never broken a stud since. And otherwise I've had no issues whatsoever. So yeah. Okay, so about the rack I'm running. I had two requirements whenever I was going into this. First, I wanted it to be a flat style rack. I wanted it to be flat. I liked the look, plus I liked the practicality of it. At the time, I was thinking I would probably be running a rooftop tent on there, and I knew that you probably needed to have a flat style rack with that. I think you can do it with other things, but there was a lot of things I liked about it. Second, I wanted an aluminum rack. I wanted it because I wanted it for the fact that it's lighter weight, and I didn't want to have to worry about rust ever, because it's going to be on my roof. It's going to be front and center for rain, and I just didn't have to worry about that. At the time, there were really only two options. There was the K9 from Eezi Awn, which is what I have, and then there was an option from Front Runner, but it wasn't a full-length roof rack. At the time, they were working on their full-length roof rack option, but it wasn't available just yet. And at the time, there was rumors of the fact that you were going to have to drill. Whenever they brought that to market, they were rumored that you were going to have to drill to mount that. And that was something that I was a little bit nervous about. So like I said, the rack I went with was the K9 rack from Eezi Awn, 2.2 meter, which is the longest roof rack option that they have. It's a full-length roof rack option. This particular rack mounts to two aluminum rails that are on either side. Those two aluminum rails mount to the two factory mounting points on either side. So there's 4 bolts total, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and that's where the factory rails mount to the top of the 4Runner. So these aluminum rails that come with the K9 rack, they mount to those factory points, and then the K9 rack has feet that they mount to, that then those feet then mount to the rail. So one of the things I get asked a lot is there's a curvature of the roof, but these rails are straight. Do they have the rails that are bent to the curvature of the roof, or how do they make that just right? Whatever. Basically the way it works is you take the rails, you mount them down, and then the front of the rail is not mounted because there's no screw holes in the front, and it just goes kind of straight out like that. And so basically what you do is you mount the rails, and then you mount the feet to the rack, you put the rack up on the roof, and then you take the middle feet and you make them the shortest height that you can make them, and then you take the front feet and you make them the highest height you can make them, and then basically what you do is what I did is I wedged the back up with like cardboard, stacks of cardboard and stuff, and like little stiff boxes and stuff. And Paul May with Equipped Expedition Outfitters, whom I bought the rack from, he calls it the cantilever method. So I've got the middle feet, the shortest height, the front feet at the tallest height, and the back, I wedge the back up, and the rack comes up, pushes the front down, bends those bars, then I tighten the back, then I tighten the middle ones where they're supposed to be, and that's it. It's mounted, and it's been fine. I've ran it for 18 months now. I installed it July 2016, and I've never had any issues with it whatsoever. Nothing's like, it hasn't like bent up or come off or caused structural issues with the 4Runner. I mean, everything's just fine. I stand up here all the time, and everything's been great. The K9 rack, I've been relatively happy with it. The only gripes that I've had have been the finish. It's a little superficial, and I know baking in the Florida sun, I don't know what I expect, but I was hoping that the finish itself would look better. And then the other thing that I've had a problem with, I mean, it hasn't caused any issue, but it's at least aesthetically not pleasing, but some of the channels where I've probably over-torqued, to be honest, but some of the channels have bent up where the bolts have been underneath and where I was tightening something down. And I don't know if the Front Runner rack would have an issue like that or not. It seems like a reasonable issue to have. Something that I have been quite jealous of with my friends that are running the Front Runner rack is how well it's supported. There are a zillion accessories that are great and useful that the Front Runner rack has, that Front Runner makes, that's specific for that rack. Granted, some of those accessories do work on the K9 Eezi Awn rack, but sometimes it's hit or miss. You can get one of those accessories and get it in, and it doesn't work quite right. The accessories that Eezi Awn provides for the K9 rack, there's not very many. And I'll be honest, 2 of the accessories that I've gotten for it have come in with incomplete hardware, and it was really annoying, and it was just annoying to buy something and have to go to the hardware store and buy parts and pieces that frankly, it should have came with anyway. I will be honest, I have been thinking long and hard about making a switch from this rack to the front runner rack. I'm not really nervous at all about drilling in the front anymore. I know lots of people that are running that rack and have been running it for a while successfully and haven't had any issues. I imagine, as with everything, you have to take care into how you do it. So that could be in my future, I'm not really sure. Thank you for watching my very first 5-Minute Friday, even though it's not Friday anymore and it was way over 5 minutes. This subject matter was doomed to take longer than 5 minutes. But anyway, if you liked it, hit the like button. If you've had it useful, share it with your friends, and we will see you next week.